things are not going well.
The people coming out now don't even really know that, kind of know the difference or the way things were done before.
They were never good old days.
We have been bred to be competitive and oftentimes not collaborative.
We have to feel that there's a human aspect.
And there's that dangerous middle ground.
Really only 6 to 8% of the total healthcare spend.
Everything's electronic. They can already tell who I am, what I do, what I have.
You had to get the highest scores on a board. This is our big fight.
I confess in every situation.
It's like the world against primary care.
Patients would heal much faster.
So there's a problem here, right?
And the tagline says,
I'm shocked.
we got all our venting out. There's a lot of,
I think we just
got
started.
serious really fast.
I'm shocked. I mean, where do I even begin?
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of
The Six.
We are so excited to be recording yet another episode. And as we did in the others, we will have each of our guests introduce themselves with one line of who they are. Who wants to take it away?
Brad Block, otolaryngologist and podcast host.
You win the prize. All right. Brian, you're next in my screen.
Brian Gantwerker, neurosurgeon in California, and total Donna Coryell standboy.
Awesome. Love it. Susan?
I'm an internal medicine medical consultation and patient advocate.
Fantastic. Franchella's next on my screen.
Michelle Hamilton, bariatric surgeon, obesity medicine physician, founder of NeuroSwitch Weight Loss.
Wonderful. An upcoming lecture in our obesity medicine conference. Alejandro, you're next.
Orthopedic upper limb surgeon and formerly a reluctant healthcare entrepreneur and author.
Wow. You guys all win medals for the brevity. Okay. So as we do in our other episodes, what's going to take place over the next hour or so is that we are going to screen share different posts and tweets, etc., from the online world. And we will have all of us commenting about them with our virtual commentary. So it's a very fun, entertaining, educational, and hopefully thought-provoking hour. So here we go, sharing the screen. All right, so here is the first share that we're going to do for tonight, and it comes from X, formerly known as Twitter. Michael Cellini tweeted out, "Hot take here, but I can't help but think renewing ACLS and BLS every 2 years is anything but a money grab." So I'm actually going to stop sharing the screen, and I am going to be opening this up to all of you. I just wanted to ask the following question as sort of a facilitating question. Should we have to renew ACLS and BLS every 2 years? So why don't we, whoever wants to take it away can go.
Oh, I think that's too frequent. I mean, we're all busy. I've always had mixed feelings about this. As a surgeon, I'm, in the OR, and if something happens to the anesthesiologist and there's a crisis to the patient, I think that I should be well enough prepared. So in one way, I think yes, but I don't think every 2 years. I think maybe every 5. I'm going to imagine that's like hate to say this, but a New York and California thing, probably. I don't know why. I mean, in Florida, and I bet we don't have to redo that often. But the answer is, for me, it's mixed feelings. I think that there is a lot of importance to that.
I'll jump in because I take ER call both for gen surge and then as an ER physician too. And I will say, we have to, so I'm in Texas and we have to do it every 2 years too. And
Really?
then I also have to take ATLS every 4 years. And mind you, I've already gotten certified in trauma from general surgery. So it's been very frustrating. And this past year, by the way, all of the ER physicians who used to get board certified ER physicians who used to get a pass now also had to jump back in and take ATLS to
Wow.
work. So just so you guys know, in order for me to take ER call, I have to, like, this is a requirement or that I will be taken off the schedule. And it's a little bit frustrating because I'm like regularly, kind of in the trenches. I think I agree in the sense that if people, when I was just doing bariatric surgery, kind of jumping in every so many years, almost like what he was saying, in the sense that it's good to know, right? As whatever, whether you're in the hospital floor and you're the only doctor around or you're in the OR, I think it's helpful. But I think if you're practicing actively in the ER or in trauma, like trauma surgeons who actively take trauma calls still have to take this, just so you know. Like, I think that's a little bit ridiculous, and I do think it's a bit of a money grab. So
I mean, as a neurosurgeon, I don't disagree with anybody here. The thing that bothers me the most, though, is we haven't changed how we do chest compressions since I was a medical student. At least I'm sure it goes beyond that. So it would be reasonable to recertify, but what really changes is just what the ratio is every single time. You give a breath, you not give a breath. I think for higher, more technical stuff, like I actually got ATLS certified when I was a resident because I did moonlighting. Shh, don't tell anybody. I did moonlighting at a very small community hospital in Cleveland, and it's ended up how I paid for my wife's engagement ring. So it was important though, because I had patients, had like subcutaneous crepitus. I mean, patients losing their airway. It was nuts. Like I had a lot of work to do, and I can't imagine not having that certification. But in terms of, recertifying, it does feel like it is sort of like padding. Someone's packets are getting padded. I mean, it's the same thing with us here in fluoroscopy. I use a lot of fluoro for spine, and can't really do it without it. It's very hard to do without it. We don't really use plain film anymore, intraoperatively at least. So I have to get certified on fluoroscopy every 2 years, and it's a lot of money between the CME and then the credentialing itself. So yeah, there's a total somebody called like a healthcare industrial complex where we have to pay into these things, and MOC kind of falls into that, and we could get crazy and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's just all part of a larger cancerous growth in medicine. So yeah, it's a little crazy, but Francel's right. I mean, if she was working on me, I'd feel very comfortable with her knowing that she's certified and she's got her ATLS and she's boss. But I mean, with me, it's really rare, thank God, that I have to like flip someone over and do chest compressions. Other than I'm walking by in the ICU and they're going to work, and I just say, hey, do you want me to rotate in or whatever? But I can count on one hand how many times I had to do that. But I have had to do it.
Brian, you think it should be every 2 years? What if it was every 5? Maybe
every 4 or 5 is very reasonable. I mean, to me, like I said, we haven't changed how we do chest compressions, right? It's like nothing's changed. We haven't changed. And if you're in the hospital, someone's going to be bagging, you're going to be pushing, and that's pretty much it. Like out in the field, obviously, if you know how to do chest compressions, you'll save someone's life. But do we really do it every 2 years? Honestly, no, I don't think so.
So I don't need to have these certifications. So I don't know when, and I'm in New York, so I don't know when it's appropriate or who it's appropriate for. I'm not a hospital employee. I take call. I used to take hospital call. I don't really take hospital call anymore. So it wasn't, even when I was taking hospital call, it wasn't necessary. I was an outside consultant. So it just wasn't, so we're not required. But a caveat, I would just ask you all to ask yourselves the question, are you attributing to malice what could be attributed to incompetence? And so the fact that it's every 2 years, the question, is it a money grab? Well, it could also be that someone just decided this at some point and nobody's ever readdressed it. It's not that someone's trying to line their pockets and, it's, who decided. It was the senator's son who owns ACLS certification. So he's making, no, it could just be like someone just made a lazy decision and they're like, yeah, this works. We're going to keep doing it because it's for patient safety. So if you say the words patient safety, they have to do this thing. So it's hard to like untangle that once it's been done and readdress the issue, because that's going to take work. Someone's going to need to sit there, make the decision, pass it through a committee. That has to be another committee. You're right. And that's how this bureaucracy works. So I think it's not necessarily a money. I agree with everyone that, Is it practical? No. Is it necessary? No. But is it because it's a money grab? I don't think everything's as nefarious as that.
So I will say, going back to like ATLS, which is on the same like thread, it's a little bit different than ACLS and BLS. It's a little bit more involved, and it's only every 4 years. It's not every 2 years. But for the longest, for decades and decades, board certified ER physicians did not have to take that, because they honestly in trauma and ER, you probably get that daily on a shift in a big hospital, to be honest. And they just got thrown back into the mix this year, being it now, it's now a requirement. So that's not like an old thing that just kept going. That's like new now. And they were like, a lot of my colleagues were, because it's like thousands of dollars to take the ACLS, just FYI. And
Someone
now
was
they
probably
have
like,
to
how
take
come
it.
they don't need to do it and we need to do it? And they were like, okay, we'll just make them to do it
Well,
too.
it's also like Franchelle, isn't it like a 2-day course? Like if you,
Yes.
isn't like a full
Yes.
2 days?
You got to
like,
take time off of
yeah,
work.
2
I
days to do it.
Yes.
It's not,
yes.
it's not an hour. It's like 2
Correct.
days.
Is the
and it's a
hospital
practical.
compensating you for your time?
So we
Or is that on
no,
your time off?
That is something that we have to pay out of pocket if we want privileges or if we want to get on the schedule. It's they're making it a physician requirement. Yeah. Mhm.
It's like teachers buying their school supplies for their students. It's just
That's
insane.
why we need unions.
Don't get me started on that. We can talk about that. But I don't want to usurp the time.
Yes, we
We'll talk-
could.
Yeah.
Well, I think the money grab part maybe is we can rephrase that, because I mean I don't have to do this. This is my home office. There's no one, unless someone's hiding under the table, they're needing CPR. I think that it's the chipping away, or that death by 1,000 cuts. And like what Franchelle just said, taking 2 days off. Can you actually do the math and how much money you're actually losing from your paycheck? Then you're paying for the thing. And if it's whatever, thousands of hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then it's it's everything else. So we're doing that with other certification or other requirements or other, recertification, be it our medical licensure or our DEA or our whatever. And so it just keeps adding up. And then if you have to prove every 7 years, you know what you're doing. And it's just that is the money part to me. It's like everywhere we turn, we're having to pay for all of this. There are not a lot of other businesses. Like an attorney doesn't have to prove every 2 years that they've passed the bar, and they can still pass the bar. I mean, that's maybe a bad example, but it just,
and they can get thrown off the bar and take the bar again.
Right. And so it's just, it's kind of maddening in that sense.
Brad's analogy is like, have you ever heard the story about, when you make a roast, you always cut the ends off? And then your mom taught you that, and you teach your kids that, and then you go back to your grandmother and she says, oh, the reason I did that is because that's how I feel I can get it to fit in the pan. Like there wasn't anything nefarious. There was just, that's how grandma made a brisket. It's just, she had to cut it to get it to fit in her pan. It wasn't anything magical, but there's a lot of stuff that we do, a lot of crap that is just, vestigial and unfunded. And I know that most doctors, and we can talk about EPIC training. So you guys remember, to EPIC, physicians, other than rare circumstances, did we get paid. And it was only after an outcry by physicians did you get paid for your time learning how to do EPIC. And so I just don't think it's fair that, you keep paying for stuff for the distinct privilege, of making the hospital money. It's crazy.
Exactly. The decision would be very different if the hospital had to pay those physicians their compensated rate. Then it's like, oh, patient safety. Oh, but it's going to cost you a couple $1 million for all these patients. Well,
no, we can kind of fudge that.
Yeah.
We don't need to do that. That's
Is it really saving any? They know how to do it. They're competent, right?
They'd fund the studies to show that it doesn't make a difference is what ended up happening.
Yeah.
Okay, great discussion and very fair. Let's go back to our post for the next one. Okay,
Did
now
it make a sound?
it didn't. It didn't make a sound. Let me see again if no, there's no sound on it. Here is the question. Okay, there's actually 3 follow-up questions to this, and okay. Would you wear these on your nails? That's obviously for the women here, although you know what? Maybe the men would. Number 2, what would your specialty be represented by? And I'll leave number 3 for afterwards, but let's hear you guys say just comment on this?
Absolutely not. That is creepy. I'm sorry, that's creepy.
I love your reaction.
Yeah, that's speaking from someone who maybe once every 10 years wears nail polish. So I don't do that. But that's just creepy. I'm sorry. That's Halloween.
Okay, can we do Franchelle next? To
Yeah, no, I'll go because when I saw that, I'm like, that's gross. And I'm a surgeon. I don't want to see those organs. But if I had to, it would be stomach, intestine, and maybe colon. But that's gross. You know what I'm saying? So I wouldn't do that either. And I get my nails done. I get my nails done.
Nice.
Would not do that.
And
At least you didn't say
colon.
pilonidal cyst, Franchelle, because then I would have
With stuff coming
logged
out of it like
logged
that.
off. I'm done. No more.
Intestines were there just to.
They were. I saw them. No, I immediately spotted
Okay,
them. And the
perfect.
stomach
Yeah.
was there. Just saying. Like,
So would yours be like a Roux and Y? Is that?
I don't even know if the nail could fit. I could do a sleeve on the
Oh.
piece of the stomach on the.
You know what mine would be? Mine would be a little pillow because I get more sleep now than the last 35 years of my existence. So yay, yay.
Pillow.
That's your organ is the pillow.
An eye mask.
I have a
An
pillow.
eye mask. What about you, Bradley? What would your nail ornament look like?
It wouldn't be on that surface. It would be on the undersurface, and it would be a booger under the finger.
Good one. Booger. Okay. Is there a more medical term for booger, by the way?
So this is going to be gross, but the answer is yes, and it depends if it's dry or wet. So if it's dry, it's a crust, and if it's wet, then it's mucus or pus or maybe mucopus or something like that. But yes, it depends on the consistency of what's coming out of your nose.
All right. We got mucus for the otolaryngologist. What about the orthopedic surgeon? Like, what could exemplify your nail, your specialty on a nail?
It's paronychia.
Well, for one, I'm glad I'm not a urologist for the nails, but the irony is I deal with nail problems all the time. So I don't like these because when people have trauma and they have these long nails, not to mention what's being done with nails nowadays, nails need to breathe. So they really do. So this obsession lately with, I like, painted nails and everything, but not exceedingly long, not always fake, not because they're causes issues. So
And those O2 sat monitors won't work.
well,
That's
we
true.
hand surgeons until actually now quite a few years, but when I trained, one of the things that we always had to do was remove the nail polish
Yeah.
because but I think people realize that reality is it's not that important, but I know I don't like a lot what happens with these nails, and there were some studies that thought that the really long nails were a problem causing potentially even flexor tendonitis, carpal tunnel syndrome, because when your nails are too long, you can't bring your fingers all the way in, and the two flexor tendons can't differentially glide. So there's been some studies that show there's a problem. I'm a firm believer that we see more CTS in the females because it has a lot to do with hormonal changes. It's very much a metabolic phenomenon, but there is a mechanical component. So sorry to give it a boring answer, but if I was a urologist, it'd be more exciting.
No, totally fine. And I'm excited to hear what Brian would envision on the nail. And you cannot say brain.
No, I actually probably put a skull, and just because the skull is just the coolest set of bones in the body. We in neurosurgery we learn how to actually do these things called cradiometric points, where we can sort of measure where a structure of the brain's going to be based on the distance from certain points to certain points. In fact, old school, they used to quiz us, before we did a lot of navigation, like, okay, where's the asterion and where's the pterion and how far from the bregma to the nasion. And we had to know all these points, even though they were like ancient. So I probably put a skull, and then I probably put a spine as well. The spine is my second favorite organ, or set of organs, I should say. So, when it comes to people decorating their bodies, I always think it's so fascinating and interesting. But I worry, just like Alejandro said, I think people end up with things like tendonitis and sort of nerve entrapments because they kind of modify how they use the computer and how they hold their hands and stuff. And I mean, more power to her, but I think it's just one of those things where you're kind of dorking out a little too hard. You're kind of a bit of a poser, like we used to say when we were kids, like being kind of a poser doing that. It's like a kid buying skate shirts so he doesn't really skate. I mean, it's kind of there. I think it's a little posery, but I don't know. I'm maybe a little too judgy, but I was it's a little over the top. It's like people getting big tattoos of the staff of Escalapes, which is always like kind of like, oh, really, bro? I mean, what if you get fired or lose your license? What are you going to do then? So that's
Wait.
that's just
Tattoo of what?
the staff of Escalapes,
Right.
the medical. Yeah,
I have not
staff.
seen that. So is that
Oh,
is that a
yes.
California thing?
No, that was a Chicago thing, my friend, when I was in
Really?
medical school. Yeah, we had
Wow.
two medical schools right next to each other. We shared a campus with UIC and Rush, and that's where I went to school. And, we would interact. And plus, there was like 5 other medical schools. So we'd, Chicago Med and Northwestern and U of C and Loyola. We all always hung out. We had like these really fun parties when all 5 schools get together. But there were people working out like full on, like you go to the gym and they're wearing these tattoos. They have these tattoos on their body where it's just like, bro, kind of a tool. So I don't know. I guess nails a lot less permanent, but I think it's a little over the top and frankly, like Franchelle said, it's kind of gross. And like Alejandro said, it's kind of a medical problem too. So yeah, it's a lose-lose situation in my book.
Well, the third point that I wanted to make / question is there any way to up level these? For example, I was thinking it could be cool maybe if the lungs were to expand and then deflate sort of thing. So I just was wondering if any of you, and again, I'll share the picture again for you guys to see. Here we go. Just want you guys to take a look again.
Oh man.
Here's the video.
Is that a liver on the left? Is on the index finger? I can't tell.
We'll be right back. SoMeDocs is building incredible conferences and courses on some of the most asked for topics in health and healthcare. Take a look at this writing course.
I am here to tell you, you will use this book pitch for far more than talking to agents and publishers.
What should we watch out for? What resources are there to help us? How can we handle this?
I will be sharing about how I built a narrative medicine curriculum for our fellows and why building such a curriculum has been really essential to offer a space for diastole.
If you're looking to find your voice on the page, this is the workshop for you. You may have a writing project in mind, you may not, and you just are curious about getting creative.
We'll cover 7 strategies from telling it slant to magic realism and surrealism to meaning making and telling the story head on.
We're going to talk about all the key elements your story needs to ensure its best beginning.
We'll explore how to get started in book publishing and turn your passion and expertise into a compelling book proposal, how to pitch an editor, and what to expect from the publishing process.
You'll learn how to write a personal essay that readers want to read and editors want to publish by doing just that.
Access this conference on Writing for Healthcare Professionals exclusively on SoMeDocs.
Is that a liver on the left? Is on the index finger? I can't tell.
No,
that's a heart. That's all right. My bad. I got it now. I see it now. I see it much more clearly. It's the heart.
I just was like, you know what? Let me ask them I guess there could be peristalsis in the intestines, right?
Okay, I'm going to riff on my little. I'm going to riff on my little pillows. So if I had little pillows on my fingernails, and I'm thinking of like, I don't know, the Flash or Ant-Man, and just suddenly poof, I have a huge pillow I can take a nap on. Like I just touch a button and it just expands. That would be cool.
Yeah, on your finger, you could just interesting.
I guess I'd have 10 pillows. That's a lot of pillows. Maybe you just have 10 pillows.
You make a nest.
All right. I think we beat this one.
Where's your third? What about your third question though? The one you were going to ask us at the end.
That's the third question is there any way to up level these?
Oh, got it.
My idea was the lungs could inflate and then deflate, maybe some peristalsis with the, the intestines. Maybe the heart could beat,
Scratch and sniff.
What would the
smells
booger
like
do?
whatever the organ is.
What would the booger under the nail do though?
I don't know. Ask a kindergartner. Boogers under their nails.
All right. I'm thinking of some ideas, but I'm not going to say them. All right. Let's move on to the next, hopefully less gross post shared. Here we go.
This lady ordered an anesthesiologist cake for her friend who thinks she's gonna fail her physician's boards or like whatever they call the test for doctors. At first I'm like, okay, that's messed up. But then again, cake's always gonna be there for you when you fail. So I'm decorating an anesthesiologist, about to count you down from 10 to 0. No special color preferences, so standard issued scrub colors it is. Apparently they're having a party regardless, but she did ask if she could change the cake writing the day of just in case she passes. I'm like, no problem, I'll do it last. Just pick it up right before we close, but call me the second you find out, because like I'm not staying late to change it once I do it. That costs extra. Also, how do you decorate the mask thingy out of buttercream if it's clear? So I just did light blue and gray for the effect with like POV Dr. Derek Shepard about you, put you to sleep, and go for that impossible spinal tumor. If you know, you know. I also made the doctor give me a thumbs up because like even though she's gonna fail, everything's gonna be a-okay. Worst comes to worst, you got a lemon blueberry cake to help you forget the 100 grand you just spent going to medical school. Okay, since I never heard back from the lady, I even tried calling. I'm gonna go with the better luck next time. Hopefully she does fail, because this would not be an easy cake to scrape. Either way, I kinda am loving this POV like creepy doctor putting you to sleep cake.
Right. I had to. I just had to. So, number one, how cool is this cake? And you are allowed to answer that question with yes or no. And number two, did she bail on picking this cake up, and why? Like, how is that possible with all the work that went into it? Did I interpret that correctly? And just in general, like, what are your thoughts on this little reel?
I know a doctor who actually lives in Washington State, who's a nephrologist, who is the most awesome baker, cookies and cakes, and they are like incredible works of art.
Wow.
So this had nothing that was exciting. Her stuff is like way up here. So that was kind of like, you know, rudimentary. So I didn't even really like the art. Her stuff is incredible. But I don't know, the whole dialogue was just kind of really nasty. It was throwing her under the bus. I don't know.
Well, she didn't pick up the cake.
Well, maybe she knew it wasn't kind of her thing.
I think it sounds like she just didn't answer the phone when it was time to figure out whether or not that person passed their boards or not. And it could be because she didn't call because she still didn't have that information, but she pre-ordered the cake and will still be picking it up. That's how I heard that story. In terms of the decoration, I thought that was pretty creative for someone who's not in medicine. So they like probably Googled anesthesiologist and they got creative. I thought that was pretty cool. And I hope they passed.
Yeah, I hope so too. Brian, I heard something about a spinal tumor in there. I don't know.
Oh yeah. I that was kind of random thrown in there.
Oh, I know.
Well, it said if you know, you know. Does anyone know?
But I do know, but I don't know if that person knows.
It was like a pop culture reference, I think.
Yeah, it might be like something from Grey's Anatomy. I'm thinking it may be some TV reference, because there have been, you know, because whenever the main one of the characters faces a spinal tumor or a brain tumor for that matter, it's always like life and death, which it is, but it's like it's always that amped up, you know, because you know, it's like I'm going after a liver tumor. I mean, no offense to French Hill, but I mean, they kind of go crazy with the brain spine stuff. It always freaking out. So it is what it is. Like I thought, I mean, it was funny because I was watching this and I was going back to my oral boards, and I was absolutely terrified about my oral boards. I knew I would pass, but I didn't know I would pass. You know, I was just, it's just like, I think about this poor person and what she was experiencing. Like she thinks she's full on like, I'm going to fail my anesthesia. I assume it was her oral boards, and that she'd have to try again. It was kind of heartbreaking, but also hilarious that that person had such a positive view of it. Like, oh, screw it, I'm going to get a cake on this. Forget about it. So at the same time, also like, whoa, she's going to be walking around having failed her board, still giving anesthesia to people. But, you know, it does happen. I mean, people do fail their boards. You know, some boards have like a 25% fail rate. So,
or was it a gunner? Or was it a gunner who's like, oh, I definitely failed. I know I failed. And then they got the best score in the class, right? We all know.
I haven't heard that term since medical school, and they drove me nuts. The whole defensively optimistic crew. Oh my God. So yeah, the gunners. It's just, oh God, I had a girl actually in medical in pre-med. We were in this huge auditorium, and she hadn't studied for the organic chemistry final and was freaking out actively right behind me. like, oh my God, I'm going to fail. She just kept going. She kept going. Ah. So that was really, she probably did fail it. But so, but it was really funny because it kept reminding me of the honey badger, the whole honey badger meme thing. Like that was the narration reminded me of the honey badger, which was absolutely still one of my favorites. But I see it. It's like multifaceted reaction. It gave me palpitations thinking about my boards and how scary they were. But you know what? I hope that person did pass and she just was too busy celebrating. Maybe she got drunk as hell and didn't pick up her cake because she's so excited that she passed. Maybe that's what it is. She was just too hungover the next day. But I wish her the very best. I hope she got her boards done and she was totally wrong and passed those things and just was too drunk to pick it up the next day or something. Who knows?
All right. I thought it was a fun one to share. Okay, let's move on to the next one. Here we go.
Oof.
So on that one, guys, I'm titling that one "The End." What does this say to you about societal dependence on electronics, and how can we make this better, or is this part of the nature of today?
I would say that was very morbid. And I say it's morbid and a little bit sad because, in the like telehealth world and Zoom calls and even what we're doing now, it's almost like you sit in front of your computer typing or charting or as from a physician standpoint, and then like that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like we spend so many hours. I feel like I probably work more, and I don't know if this is all physicians, but I work more than not, probably, you know what I'm saying? So it's almost a little bit depressing, like, oh, I like work and then that's it. But I feel like that was a bit morbid. And it's almost like hoping you rethink like what else can you do with your life besides stand in front of screen time, go for walks, go for hiking, like kind of enjoy a little bit more of life outside of, screens. So
Anyone else want to weigh in, or do we move on to the next one, guys?
I was thinking about a lot of us are authors here and we've written books, and I was thinking about the difference between, actually a paper book that you turn pages and you hold versus, your tablet or Kindle or whatever. And I far prefer holding an actual book for like so many reasons, but I understand the practicality and how easy it is to share and take with you. Perhaps, you can put 500 books and it's just one little thing, it's your tablet. So I think it's just stepping away from what's the experience doing to us, or what do we want from it? Computer to me is, I love technology. It's helpful in so many ways in terms of what I use it for. But there are times I want to just get rid of it and do something that's tactile, that I can touch and feel. And I think there's a dichotomy there.
I'll weigh in a little bit too. I mean, it kind of brings me to this Beatles song called "The End" at the end of Abbey Road. So the line goes, "And in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make." So it's kind of like you have to sort of make your life about, it's really crappy and you're working a ton, especially doctors, 70, 80, 90 hours a week, plus the training. You were maybe working 90 to 100 hours a week, maybe more. My longest week was 114 hours I clocked it at for the hours restrictions. So, we as physicians, like I hear so many stories about physicians retiring. In fact, one stands out, one of my attendings I really enjoyed. We graduated together. He retired as I was finishing, and he was like a real icon to me. And he ended up with stage 4 colon cancer, diagnosed the month after he retired. And he had lost one of his sons to suicide. So it was just, and I hear that story a lot in neurosurgery. Actually, it's like almost an epidemic of children killing themselves in neurosurgery, just because, I don't know, maybe it's us, maybe it's just we're self-selected to have these kind of problems in our families. But, one of the reasons I sort of changed my practice model was because I thought about those things and those people, kids with mental ill, your kids are mentally ill, they need you, you're not there. Your spouse needs you, you're not there. And then, at the end, you're working, and what's the sum of your accomplishments, right? So, the sonnet by Percy Bysshe Shelley about Ozymandias, like, behold my works and look in fear, when it's all crumbled and garbage and there's nothing there. So you have to really think as doctors, we take it as a maybe cautionary tale that we should maybe not work so much if we can, and then try to be more available and realize that there's more to life than working, although we're all super dedicated. And obviously it's not just a job, it's a vocation, right? It's an art. We all want to do this really, really well. So yeah, I don't know. I mean, people used to live like 45 was an old age once upon a time ago. That was old age. We're all, I would say, safe to say we're over 45 on this call, I think. Maybe not Franchelle, she looks great. But I'm definitely over 45. You're welcome. Right back at you. So the thing is only have a finite amount of time, is guess what I'm saying. And yeah, it at the end we all die. We never get out of this life alive, right? Nobody ever leaves this life alive. We're all going down. But hopefully encourages people, especially physicians, that it's too long, life is super short, and you shouldn't be miserable. You shouldn't dedicate every moment to your work, although always take good care of your patients, never leave anyone in a lurch, but you get one go through this life, and that's pretty much it.
Well, I think Brian's reading into it is very much work play balance, and which is super important. I'm glad this generation cares more about that. But I think I perceive this cartoon as more about technology and on a computer, and the fact that people aren't socializing now, how much they work as physicians or any other profession that's very demanding. I think the thing here is there isn't there isn't much social interaction, and if you're not careful, you can get sucked into spending that much time. As Susan said, some of us who probably spent quite a bit of time authoring this or even scientific papers, but no, I think it's more about socializing more with a computer, email, and not engaging with other people. And next thing you know, you're pushing up daisies. That's kind of how I perceive it. And it is dark, but it is a warning to young people to say, hey, limit your screen time, whether it be at work, whether it be at play, dealing with, I have 2 teenagers, so I see that all the time. Thank God I don't see them as obsessed, but there's no question they're on it way too much. And we'll see what happens in society, right? Because I think that there's going to be some hell to pay for that with many people who are not socializing, not engaging.
Okay, we'll move on to the next. I mean, Bradley, did you want to say something?
Sure.
Okay.
Brian, I am 44. Thank you very much.
Oh, my bad.
I'll be 45 in exactly 7 days. So you were close, but not quite there.
Hey,
So yeah, no, I think this is also like a data entry, right? A lot of what we do. So we're talking about it from the perspective of physicians, healthcare. We all complain about how much we're on the screens. Hopefully AI is going to change that, because ambient AI is a thing, and hopefully it doesn't take us as long to embrace it as it did to get us off fax machines and pagers. So hopefully we can embrace it quickly, where it listens and does your documentation and orders your tests and does all the things that you say. You just verbally say it and it executes on it. So hopefully we won't be doing as much data entry as we once were. But the fact is we do have to face our computers, and we do have to type into them right now. And yes, it sucks to have to do that, but there's crappy stuff about every job, and we're not working in mines, and we're not working on assembly lines, and you could make the same post about someone who's doing repetitive manual labor over and over until they die. Like, we're actually treating patients. It sucks how much we have to use computers, but looks like that much might change, and hopefully we can do something to improve that. We're still, it's nice that we're able to do this instead of just being at the computer all the time. And so,
But I agree, but I don't think it's about us, Brad. I think this is kind of this cartoon sort of a metaphor for in society about the depersonalization and the fact that there are people who can go from, I mean, now what is it, 2-year-olds, learn how to use an iPad and are incredible all the way until you're older. And that is the discouraging thing about it.
I'm just looking at it through the prism of healthcare, because we're a bunch of physicians. So that's how I interpret it in this specific setting. To your point, it probably wasn't the intention of whoever made the cartoon.
I think you're both making really great points, just from different viewpoints, obviously. So they're both great. let's do another one.
How much money I made in April as a full-time resident doctor and part-time influencer. As a resident doctor, I got paid $3,413. This is after taxes and contributions to retirement. And then as an influencer, I got paid $8,397. And I always get asked how I do this. And I wrote a whole ebook about how to become a part-time influencer that over 400 people have purchased and found success with, where I teach you how to grow an account, how to work with brands. And trust me, if I can do this working 60 hours a week as a doctor, you can too.
Okay, now the following are questions that I have for you. I'm titling this Doctor Plus Influencer. Are we surprised more and more of the younger generation? Are we surprised that the younger generation is turning to social media? And then are there reasons that we shouldn't do this for supplemental income as physicians? So those are two different questions, and they're both kind of, worthy of probably long commentary. So let's tackle the first one and say, first of all, are we surprised that more and more of the younger generation is actually turning to social media and even having dreams of, when I grow older, right? I no longer want to be a lawyer or a doctor. I want to be a social media influencer. Like, does that surprise us at this point?
We'll be right back. Did you know we have multiple series already available to watch or listen to inside of our series section? Check out the second season of Conversations with Shem, starring as host the legendary author of The House of God himself, Dr. Samuel Shem.
I've watched you unfold too in your writing.
I know it's a terrible burden and you'll get shat on, but we'll have a good time.
Yeah. If we answer that question and the answer is yes, we value money, then we're doing everything just right now.
Oh, because the food is really good, that the hospital's really good.
Healthcare workers have been always stressed, but of course, above and beyond.
At this age.
To learn.
Yes, the disparities still exist.
People in the C-suite, the corporate people, they don't care. To them, doctors are just employees.
And that's what people have really responded to, the authenticity.
All I really wanted was to come to work and feel like I was rowing in the same direction as everybody else.
Like, you could be a doctor, you could be someone who works in a parking lot for the hospital.
It is not uncommon for people to put aside their personal life.
I could never speak like that.
But we are not listening to the why.
How are you working to co-produce solutions?
They said, all well and good, Dr. Vonnegut, but if the dollars work, nothing else matters.
When I started medical school, I was the only person who looked like me in my medical school class.
Something about the struggles of men and friendship sort of as they age.
And people hate it when I say this, like, you're just scaring me. I can't do anything about this.
And I had my threadbare blue blazer, and they all had these $1,000 suits.
Tearing something down in order to get to what's real and important.
Because we had to march across the bridge, one of the biggest marches ever.
They would only pay me half of what they were paying me now.
But it's true, whether I tell you or not.
No, you don't have any choice.
I need to promise you that it's not over.
I called my wife and say, I need new clothes.
Good connection is good medicine. That's the one phrase I've come up in my 76th year, I think.
Check it out on doctorsonsocialmedia.com/series. Now back to the show.
Are we surprised that more and more of the younger generation is actually turning to social media and even having dreams of, when I grow older, right? I no longer want to be a lawyer or a doctor. I want to be a social media influencer. Like, does that surprise us at this point?
Yes, as a boomer, it doesn't surprise me, but it really makes my skin crawl. That's just because it's not my style. First of all, the word influencer just makes me kind of gag. I just hate that word. And that's just me. I'm not saying influencers are bad or they're terrible people, but I just have zero, and I mean zero, interest in following an influencer. Now, maybe that word is just the word, right? Maybe there are people I've followed before that I just don't call them influencers. Money doesn't make you happy. money's great. It pays the bills. You want to have a retirement plan. I mean, there's lots of good things about money, but I don't know, there's just a lot there. And that word is just it's just a big turnoff for me. And so it's hard for me to identify.
I'm not surprised. I have teenagers and below, and like I want to be a YouTuber. I'm like, no, you know what I'm saying? Because they see all these people and they think it's real. And then I've seen several teachers that split their time. I'm sure we've all heard of some cases where they are a teacher, but they make more money doing stuff on, I mean, and then just in general, the population, the employment. I honestly think movies are closing down. I mean, part of it is just things are changing, but restaurants, brick and mortar places are closing down because we don't have a lot of the teenagers or the 20s, early 20s to, I would say, 25 and below, like running these places now. They all want to be influencers. They all can make more money doing fashion or whatever, on TikTok or Instagram than they can working as a waitress. And so I think society, big picture, is taking a huge hit. I've been to several like local restaurants and boutiques that are just like, they can't find people. And I think it's because like a lot of the younger generation now is on social media and they're doing those things. So I'm curious to see what our work, like not just the work ethic, but where we'll be in 10, 15 years. People aren't going to college anymore. They're just like, why go to college when I could jump on YouTube and make $1 million, And so it's interesting to see where things will be in about 10 years as far as the workforce.
I have a question for Donna. How is this person, who's a physician, right? She's a resident physician and has an online presence from which she gets income, different from the people that you help at SoMeDocs, who are physicians who are trying to grow their online presence, many of whom are trying to get revenue through that online presence. So what's the difference?
Yeah, that's a great question. And they're not different,
Good question.
right? That's exactly what many physicians are trying to do is they're trying to, I mean, we have a Facebook group, a community called Dr. Side Ventures, where the purpose is to basically bring up discussion on what everyone is doing on the side to generate supplemental income usually, right? Especially, I mean, I don't want to point out primary care physicians, but primary care physicians specifically, right, are some of the lowest earners in terms of medical doctors. They're some of the, it's not that they're busier than anyone else. We're all working super hard, but they're certainly not compensated for their time in the same way that specialists are. Many will argue that they don't study as long, they don't train as long, and that's true. But certainly they are looking for means of supplemental income, and it is not different, meaning they would be very open to figuring out that formula. And I guarantee you that if they're watching this, might look her up and ask to, purchase her ebook or whatever it is. And I'm curious as to what she actually says in it as well, because at the end of the day, you can do it so many different ways. And yeah, SoMeDocs does that, right? You could build a course, you could build a podcast, you could write a book, you can build a brand. So
Dana, I actually have an answer for Bradley about that. I think that what many of us do, and you see it in different professions, is we're using social media because of its reach and because of its cost to be able to educate. Sometimes, yes, get patients, but that young lady is making money by just wearing a nice blouse, and because of the number of followers, she's actually not creating. I have a real problem with any kind of job where at the end of the day, what have you really done? And I don't want to attack the financial industry, but it always bugs me with Wall Street when I always saw they're taking money from here and they're bringing it here and what they're making here. I mean, a patient
Brian, what's that word? Luftgeschäften. Air business.
Right. They're shufflers. And that's how I see influence. Now, if you're the influencer and you make that blouse and you design it and you use social media to sell more, that's cool.
They're a marketer. They're marketing.
If you're a neurosurgeon, right?
They're in advertising. They're in advertising. There's a whole industry. So the advertising industry then goes under the heading of air business because we advertise our practices. right? To let them know that it's out there. So she's advertising for brands.
But I think that, you know, that
I think the way that she's describing it is a little vapid, but I
right,
think
right.
that's our
That's the
problem.
thing. That Brad, you're
I
perfect.
agree.
That's perfect because it's not that she said being a physician was bad. And it's not that she said that her other, I don't remember the other occupation was like better than a physician. She was just saying she had both. I thought it was distasteful to like say, well, the comparison was the dollar bill. Like it wasn't like I'm bringing value to the world, caring for people because I'm a compassionate physician, or I really like doing whatever it is that she was doing because, you know, it really gives me fulfillment and actually it's really cool because I make money. No, it's like, oh, in this case, as a doctor, I make this much, but I make twice as much over here. I think that to me was the offensive part. I don't know.
I think it was like I work my butt off as a resident and I can barely pay my bills. Now I can go on nice vacations and wear nicer clothes and I'm not living paycheck to paycheck because I spend a couple of hours a week doing this thing that you can do too. Here's how. Now, I would warn everyone that there's survivorship bias there. So just because she did it this way doesn't mean it's going to work for you as well. And so that's a big problem of what a lot of people are selling. And if we're, you know, talking about what she's selling, there are plenty of doctors that are selling supplements online that are of no health benefit. They'll cherry pick some study that they can show that in a petri dish, maybe it did something, but there are plenty of physicians that are doing this, that they're saying they're bringing healthiness, but they're lining their pockets. So it's not like, you know, attending physicians are any, she's making some extra bucks with some extra time. Good for you. As long as she's still studying in her program and doing well and graduating and taking care of her patients, like the fact that she's able to do, like Tim Ferriss decades ago wrote the 4-hour work week. You can automate a business and it'll run itself and it'll make you money. And then you can spend the rest of your time doing, you know, training as a resident. Good for her.
I mean, I'll weigh in, I guess. You know, I'm Gen X, so we're all latchkey kids, and you know, we're sort of we call ourselves feral because we survived like lap belts and playground equipment and bullies and everything else that's, you know, the kids are really kind of thankfully being protected from and about. But look, I respect her hustle. I mean, I can't fault her for that. I mean, she's making 4x with what her resident, which is pathetic, by the way, how much they're making. They should be making a lot more in residency. It's disgusting. But you know, look, you kind of, they have that sort of cadence that, you know, that if you're watching, if you like, you close your eyes and substitute like chocolate chip cookies for what she was talking about, it's the same thing, right? It's the same really strange to me, like kind of grates on my nerves voice. But my wife and I talk about this a lot. You know, we're concerned about our kids as a group. You know, my kid's 11. Fortunately, he wants to be an engineer, wants to be the next Tony Stark. And he wants to go to MIT and he wants to do something with his life. I'm so grateful because I know there's a lot of kids and I'm in LA. So welcome to influencer land. They all come here. Right. So I do have some in my practice. And thankfully they're most part they're mentions. They're nice people, genuinely nice people. But it's very easy to fall into this, you know, faux idea that it's like a kid comes up in the city or anywhere in America and he plays some tackle football. He goes to Pop Warner and he wants to go to the NFL. You know, what percentage of those kids would go to the NFL? Some of these kids may be looking as a way to socially shift themselves up, out, to the side, whatever. But to be an aspirational influencer, it's not the same as being an athlete, right? An athlete, you're producing value for the team, you're getting experience. You may be able to parlay it into like with Michael Jordan, you know, restaurants, investing. You look at, I mean, Shaq. I mean, my God, the guy's amazing. He's a total entrepreneur. But that's really exceptional. Most of those people don't really end up like that. And it's good they did it. It's great. But it kind of gives a false sense of, I don't know, maybe it just gives them a false sense of hope. I really don't want to say it like that. Sounds terrible. But I mean, the bottom line
right.
is like,
it's like acting or athletes. There's a survivorship bias.
Yeah, there's survivorship bias.
Don't end up like that.
So that's why I want to say it's not like, and that's why I'm going to kind of to the first question, Donna. I'm not surprised because this is a human condition that we all have. Like you may grow up and you're like, I'm going to be the world's, you know, greatest swimmer. I'm going to be the prettiest model on the runway, or I'm going to, you know, invent the next, you know, big thing for rocket fuel. And, you know, you may end up doing some amazing things, but it's really, really, really unlikely that you will, but you still try at it. Right. But the thing is, like, if you're trying at it, shouldn't what you do have some positive effect on society? Like, isn't that our moral contract or societal contract? Like Alejandro was saying, I mean, you're not really producing anything of value, and that's why I wanted to be a doctor, is because yes, we get paid well, or at least we used to, because back when I was in medical school, nobody had a side hustle. None of the physicians, my attendings had side hustles. They're trying to figure out like when are they going to go to their second house in South Holland, Michigan, when we were growing up. And now it's like, oh, we're just trying to, get that, crack the egg, crack the nut. I mean, don't get me wrong, we're paid very, very well. But for all the training we go through and the stuff we miss, and the people we miss, and the people that die on us, or the kids that are born, and the things that we don't get to attend, there should be some sort of compensation for that. Any other vocation in the world, if you sacrifice, you give up, you get something in return, right? But at the same time, we're also giving even more. We gave our time, and now we're giving of our fiber, of our being, and our time, and our worry, and a lot of times, like literally, like bits and pieces of you go with these patients wherever they go. So, like, I feel like it's sad that we have to have a side hustle. It's insane. Am I surprised? No. I don't really respect influencers, but I also can't fault them for their hustle. But at the same time, I really hope she can continue doing influencing, because there's going to become a time she's no longer interesting to anybody, and that's going to go to zero. And so I just hope she's ready for that. I applaud her for,
or she'll pivot. She'll find something that works. Like some people are just really good at this. They understand what the audience wants, and they some.
Well, there's that drift, right? So, and I'll shut up after this, but I was listening to a podcast, and this it was Sam Harris's podcast, which is very interesting. I highly recommend it. I'll come up with the name at the end, but it's about neurosciences.
It's like 15% happier.
It's something like that.
Something like
I think so. But he sort of talks about how he's seen people, especially in social media, how they kind of drift towards extreme things, going for anything as banal as like a hot take, which is, just off the top of your head, what you think about something, and it may be offensive or stupid or just uninformed or just really ridiculous, just for the sake of getting clicks, likes, and clout, to like becoming an extremist, like selling supplements like snake oil online, or even saying, encouraging violence against somebody because of XYZ. So you have to be careful, because social media polarizes people. And yeah, you'll basically do anything you can, like Bradley said, to keep making that money. That's what I'm really worried about, is like maybe she'll be so addicted to that money that she'll do something that may not be necessarily good for her or anybody else. So we hope it's good. Just hope she's altruistic. Hope she's a good doctor and concentrating and minding her patients, in addition to making her side hustle. But it's not a way to support yourself, not long term, at least not that I think of. So that's my spiel.
All right. Well, with that, we are going to close this episode. It's been a blast. Some great discussion as always. And I can't wait to film the next episode, which will be coming up soon. So thank you, everyone, and good night.
Good night.
Thanks so much for listening.